Welcome back to this second day of the Australian Apitherapy Conference. Thank you so much for joining us again. It is no mean feat to bring in experts from around the world on such a very interesting subject. And we're very fortunate that many apitherapists, medical researchers, practitioners from around the world have agreed to support us again for this conference. Today, you'll see more exciting research from Australia on propolis, which is very impressive and has been very extensive, from Egypt on an unusual treatment for corneal blindness using honey, which is very impressive indeed, and also even on the treatment of animals in veterinary treatments. So we're looking forward to bringing all of this to you again. Thank you very much for persevering with us when we have some technical issues, because it's no mean feat to connect people from across the world live on one platform, but we seem to be getting along with it okay. And we really appreciate your support. So welcome back, and we'll get stuck into the program again for today. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias. Quiero saludar a los miembros de la Asociación Australiana de Apiterapia. Mi nombre es José Cabrera, soy vicepresidente de la Asociación Ecuatoriana de Apiterapia, secretario de la Federación Latinoamericana de Apiterapia y primer secretario de la International Federation Apiterapia. El tema del día de hoy que voy a compartir con ustedes es control de la calidad en productos elaborados con apitoxina en laboratorios La Melífera. Hasta el momento nosotros estamos produciendo 4 productos con apitoxina y nuestro interés ha sido hacer el control de calidad y poder determinar la apitoxina en los productos que elaboramos. Nos hemos trazado el siguiente objetivo, un método para la separación e identificación de componentes químicos del veneno de abeja, apitoxina, tanto de la melitina, la fosfolipasa 2 y la apamina por HPLC para el control de calidad en productos elaborados con apitoxina. El veneno de abejas es hecho y adaptado para defender a las abejas y su colonia. Se le llama la maravilla de la naturaleza. Laboratorios La Melífera decidió evaluar cada uno de estos componentes para su área de control de calidad de materias primas y productos terminados. Es decir, tanto la presencia de melitina, de fosfolipasa 2 y de la apamina. Las investigaciones de la composición química del veneno de abejas son relativamente recientes. Su origen se remonta a los años 50 del siglo pasado. En Ecuador comenzamos nuestros primeros ensayos en el mes de octubre del año 2015, constituyéndonos en pioneros en este tema. Hay varios métodos para determinar la apitoxina, como la cromatografía de capa fina, la electroforesis en gel de poliacrilamida y la espectrofotometría, entre otros. Antes de continuar con el tema, vamos a revisar un poquito la composición química del veneno de abejas, que está compuesta por un grupo de péptidos y de enzimas y otros compuestos adicionales. Entre ellos los principales que nosotros vamos a determinar es la melitina, que está presente en el veneno de abejas entre un 40 y 50%, la apamina entre 1 y 2%. Y el otro compuesto que vamos a determinar es la fosfolipasa 2, que se encuentra dentro de la composición química del veneno de abejas entre el 10 y el 12%. Estos son los compuestos adicionales que encontramos dentro de la composición química de la apitoxina. Materiales que hemos utilizado: apitoxina en polvo de laboratorios La Melífera, acetonitrilo obtenido de laboratorios MEG, el ácido trifluoroacético de Sigma Aldrich Chemical de Milwaukee de Estados Unidos, filtro de membrana de 0,45 mililitros Wadman y una solución estándar preparada de 3,88 miligramos por mililitro. Aquí tenemos los parámetros para la operación, especialmente las columnas. Hemos utilizado 3 tipos de columna. La Metachen Monochrome C18 L1 de 250 milímetros por 4.6 milímetros, que nos da un flujo de 3 miligramos para todas las muestras excepto pomapidol. La Metachen Monochrome C18 L1 de 250 por 4.6 de 3 milimicras, la Licrosfor de C18 L1 de 250 por 4.6, y aquí hemos utilizado, esta columna tiene una capacidad un poquito más grande de 5 milimicras que utilizamos solo para el producto pomapidol, como vamos a ver más adelante. Estos son los productos que nos estamos fabricando por el momento. Una pomada que le hemos llamado pomapidol, que es de uso terapéutico. El Apinjej, que es un inyectable de apitoxina de uso terapéutico. La Pigotitas, terapéutico, que es apitoxina oral para colocarse de forma sublingual bajo la lengua. Y un cosmético que le hemos llamado Apismum, abejas de la luna. Para esto hemos utilizado un paper que aquí les estoy dando a conocer, que ha servido de base para hacer nuestras investigaciones. El método que hemos utilizado, aquí tenemos la fase móvil. En la fase A hemos usado el trifluoroacético al 0,1% más agua, igual 100%, y la fase B de trifluoroacético al 0,1% más 80% de agua más 20% de cetronitilo en una relación 80-20, volumen-volumen. La velocidad de flujo después de 1.5 mililitros por minuto para todas las muestras, excepto por el pomapidol, porque no lo podíamos determinar y tuvimos que reducir a un poco más lenta el paso de la materia prima de 0.8 mililitros por minuto solo para pomapidol. Más adelante vamos a aclarar esto y dar las razones por qué fue. El volumen de inyección que utilizamos fue 20 microlitros. La temperatura del automostrador estaba regulada en 25 grados, el horno de columnas a 25 grados también para todas las muestras excepto por pomapidol. Fue necesario en el horno de columnas graduar a 30 grados centígrados, un poco más elevada la temperatura. La longitud de onda que se utilizó fue de 220 nanómetros. Y aquí tenemos los resultados. Logrando nosotros poder determinar dentro de nuestro laboratorio los diferentes picos de apamina, fosfolipasa y la melitina y los tiempos respectivos. La apamina a los 14 minutos 4.53 con un minuto más menos 0.1209 minutos. La fosfolipasa a 25, 35, 24 minutos con más o menos 22.15 y la melitina a los 33 minutos con 33.18 con más o menos 46.97 minutos. Este fue el primer producto que logramos determinar la presencia de apamina, de fosfolipasa y melitina, es el Apinjej. Hemos determinado tanto en 3X, en 4X y en 5X y en 6X también. Y aquí presentamos los picos correspondientes ya del producto elaborado. Aquí podemos ver una señal muy pequeñita, pero que manifiesta la presencia de apamina, de fosfolipasa y melitina en los mismos tiempos que había determinado anteriormente. Y aquí encontramos un analito A que suponemos que se debe al uso de conservantes que estamos utilizando en los inyectables. Aquí el siguiente producto que hemos analizado es el Apismum, una crema de tipo cosmético muy bonita. Y aquí presentamos el cronograma de la corrida de la crema cosmética Apismum. La baja intensidad de la señal se debe a la baja dosis de la formulación, pero ¿qué significa? Que nuestro producto lleva la pitoxina, aunque sea en pequeñas señales. La pequeña señal demuestra que sí está llevando la melitina. El siguiente producto es la pigotita, la pitoxina oral, que como les decía se utiliza de forma sublingual y muy utilizada en apiterapia con excelentes resultados. Y aquí está el cronograma de la corrida correspondiente a la pigotita. Y como les decía, las señales son muy pequeñitas también, pero debido a los otros componentes que se utiliza en la fabricación. Y aquí hemos utilizado como conservante el metilparabeno y podemos verle que una señal muy grande y las otras señales muy pequeñitas de apamina, fosfolipasa y melitina, que significa que el producto sí está fabricado con apitoxina. Este fue el producto un poco más complicado, por eso es que utilizamos dos tipos de columna, una con menor flujo y otra con mayor flujo para poder determinar, porque se nos volvió un poco complicado. En este cronograma se puede observar que la señal de melitina, que lo hemos puesto analito B, es imperceptible y coeluye con la señal del salicilato de metino en el mismo lugar. Esta pomada lleva una materia prima que se llama salicilato de metilo y que está muy grande, y detrás de esta misma señal se encuentra la melitina, y era un poco imposible poder determinar la melitina en este compuesto porque esta señal muy grande no nos permitía ver la señal de melitina respectivamente. Y al utilizar dos columnas y reducir el flujo, aquí vemos que realmente pudimos determinar, haciendo un lado el analito A, y vemos en el gráfico, aunque sea muy pequeñito, pero la melitina ya está en el pomapidol, que se nos hizo muy difícil. Quiero agradecerles. Muchísimas gracias por su paciencia y por haberme escuchado. Muchísimas gracias.
Natural therapies with a synergistic effect indicated in the prevention and treatment of common disease in the elderly. First of all, congratulations for Australian Apitherapy Association. Dear Dr. Bridget Goodwin, President of the Australian Apitherapy Association, dear Bridget, thank you for your participation in the international webinar in July in Sibiu in Romania, and I am glad to be with you at this high-profile scientific conference that you are organizing together with your team. In this way, I would like to congratulate the Australian Apitherapy Association, which after the extraordinary success of last year's conference decided to organize the second meeting, the second international conference, entitled Natural Medicine in Anti-Aging. I wish you success. Some question, what is aging? Aging is a natural phenomenon of all living beings of this planet, and this physiological process cannot be stopped by anyone or anything, but it can be significantly slowed down by using different natural treatments, different traditional methods, known and used for millennia. These traditional methods of complementary and alternative medicine ensure a good chance in anti-aging. What does aging begin? Aging starts from the moment we are born, but it should be taken seriously around the age of 30, 35. The adult at the peak of his evolution, based on the information received from anti-aging specialists should adapt to a new, healthier, a more balanced way of life with the help of natural therapies. Why do we live so little and badly? We are genetically programmed to live 110, 120 years, but we do our best to shorten our lifespan and significantly destroy our quality of life, mainly due to an unhealthy lifestyle. What does an unhealthy lifestyle really mean? First of all, an improper diet, active and passive smoking, alcohol consumption, industrial pollutants, stress, and many other gifts of civilization. Where do people live long and well? In some place of the world, like in Hunza Valley in Pakistan, in some areas of Caucasus Mountains, in the Longevity Valley, Vilcabamba in Peru, Okinawa Island in Japan, and so on. Some positive factors for long life in these mentioned regions of the world: mountain areas minus Okinawa Island, pure ecological regions, these are really pure ecological regions, healthy food, a very good quality of water, especially in Hunza Valley, everyday physical activity, lack of stress, and so on. They give life to the earth. Really, this person from Hunza Valley for Vilcabamba Longevity Valley have a very long and nice life. We know very well that the number of elderly people is increasing worldwide. At the international level, we noticed a significant increase in the number of elderly people in recent years, in recent decades, which will mean a great challenge, a really great challenge for the health and social system all over the world. Some words about the possibilities, the natural anti-aging resources in our country, in Romania. Romania has valuable traditions in the use of gentle means in the therapy of the elderly, but which can also be used successfully in prevention, or more precisely in slowing down the process specific to the aging. The natural resources available to our country in the anti-aging fight are unique in Europe and among the most valuable worldwide. The use of medicinal and aromatic plants, beekeeping products, a diet rich in vegetables and fruits and whole grains, a great number of spa resources in our country, etc., represent effective natural means in preserving the health of the elderly. The first worldwide recognized results in the field of geriatrics were obtained by Professor Dr. Ana Aslan from Romania, who used the Gerovital product with particular success in the fight against aging. Now, about some words about the natural therapies utilized in anti-aging. In this presentation, I will point the key elements of an original therapeutic model based on the synergistic effect of various complementary therapies. And here I mentioned, first of all, apitherapy. After this, aromatherapy, balneotherapy, diet therapy, homeopathy, phytotherapy, and different form of manual therapies like reflexotherapy, kinetotherapy, therapeutic massage, and so on. These methods are useful in slowing down the physiopathological processes that occur during the aging process. Some words about the most common disease in the elderly, near all disease, chronic disease. Different natural therapies were used in the prevention and treatment of some ailments widely spread among the elderly population in Romania and in majority of Western countries. This disease are especially cardiovascular disease, different forms of cancer, type 2 diabetes, obesity, rheumatic disease, respiratory disease, and so on and so on. I want to present this ROSE therapy. ROSE therapy is a therapeutical model which derives from a theoretical and practical study developed by me over 45 years of activity in the field of complementary medicine, and through which favorable therapeutic were obtained with the help of preparation from medicinal and aromatic plants, bee products, homeopathic remedies, food supplements, etc., which have a determining role on human health. The key elements of ROSE therapy in anti-aging are, first of all, the synergistic effect when various natural therapies are combined. 2, prevention of various disease specific for elderly is also an important key element of ROSE therapy in anti-aging. Stimulating the self-healing processes, especially the immune system, which can thus fight effectively against various diseases. And finally, the use of very good quality natural products in the prevention and treatment of different diseases specific for elderly. Some words about the synergistic effect of potentiation. The synergistic effect is the key element of the ROSE therapeutic model developed by me over time, and which is based on the accumulation of the healing effect in the case of the association of various complementary and alternative methods, such as apitherapy, aromatherapy, diet therapy, homeopathy, phytotherapy, manual therapies, and so on. Apitherapy was very much utilized by me in this therapeutic model entitled rose apitherapy. Different bee products are really important in the treatment, in the prevention and treatment of different disease of specific for elderly. Another alternative method, another complementary method, soft therapeutic method is aromatherapy, which utilize the power of different essential oils in prevention and in the treatment of disease. Diet therapy, very important. Homeopathy, manual therapies, phytotherapy, the power of medicinal plant and the possibility to treat different ailments. Favorable effects of synergies between natural therapies. This synergistic effect, which occurs after the application of various natural products obtained from medicinal plants, essential oils, bee products, nutritional supplements of good quality, eventual bio quality, homeopathic remedies, etc., is very important and beneficial for patients who will thus recover their health faster, or what is even more important, thanks to effective prevention, these people will be protected from various diseases. That I mentioned before, prevention of disease is also the key point of rose therapy. Another determining element of this therapeutic model is prevention or prophylaxis, since it has long been known that it is much easier to prevent a disease than to treat it. Also, the costs are much lower if a prophylaxis based on highly effective natural treatment is used. One of the great shortcomings of synthetic drugs of allopathy is that they treat an already triggered disease but do not prevent its occurrence. How to increase the body's self-defense capacity? Complementary and alternative medicine have this special quality of increasing the body's self-defense capacity, which can thus fight effectively against various diseases. The medicine of the third millennium of our day must be focused on prevention with the help of natural therapies, since the cost of allopathic treatments are increasingly high and their efficiency leaves much to be desired in an important number of diseases. Stimulating the self-healing processes is another key element of the rose therapy, since they are specific to each human body, which thus has the ability to fight against disease, especially if it is supported by natural methods without side effects, and which it bioenergetically balances the disordered system. The immune system is really the key to a healthy life. Our body has a particularly efficient immune system, which protects us against pathogens, against bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa, and so on, and a powerful nervous system which protects us against stress. Rose therapy creates an anti-aging model in which various traditional methods are harmoniously combined with modern medicine to ensure people's health through appropriate prophylactic means or their optimal treatment when, despite all efforts, the disease has not could have been avoided. In the Rose Therapy DVD, which was launched in September 2014, I include articles, related images, and videos made with the aim of improving people's health education and ensuring a longer life and a higher quality of life. My motto is information saves lives. In recent years, we have successfully used various mass media channels, radio, TV, and especially social media, blogger, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and so on, to disseminate informations from the anti-aging program, counseling people with various health problems or those who want to prevent, with the help of natural therapies, some disease specific to elderly, is particularly important and contributes significantly to the health education of the population. Virtual and anti-aging center for the people who want to live longer, better, and healthier. Another motto. Anti-aging consulting activity. I realized this virtual anti-aging center with consulting activity in Romanian, Hungarian, English, French, depends of different people language. With different social media channels, Dr. Natura blog, Virtual Anti-Aging Center Facebook, in LinkedIn, Natural Therapies newsletter, in YouTube, complementary therapies, and so on. Different social media channels where I offer this consulting, anti-aging consulting activity in different languages. Some conclusions: the integration of traditional methods in modern medicine is a requirement of our days in order to offer aging people a longer life, a chance for a more complex and effective therapy, and last but not least, a better quality of life. Very important, a better quality of life. The dissemination of correct, scientifically verified information about the beneficial results of various natural anti-aging therapies through social media is an important way, after my opinion, to educate people about their health. And finally, thank you very much for your kind attention. Bye-bye.
Hello, my dear friends from Down Under. I'm so happy to talk to you, and it's really delightful to see that it is already the second online conference. I hope that I soon can travel to Australia and meet you in person. My name is Dr. Thomas Gloger, and we are from Apizentrum Ruhr. I wrote a book about the apitherapy, and we are doing apilanil since more than 10 years. We are producing it, and we have, of course, a lot of application knowledge gathered in this very long period. Yeah, my talk goes over apilanil from bees, and let's go a little bit and see how this product fits into the other products from the bees. I like this TCM scheme. Also, I'm not a TCM specialist, but you see the 5 elements of traditional Chinese medicine. Bee venom, for example, is fire. And our apilanil I'm talking today is water, and it's close to royal jelly. And we will see royal jelly and apilanil are like yin and yang. And we will see a lot of similarities, but also some differences. So this is a good scheme, especially when you think about allergies. So when you have a bee venom allergy, you see that, for example, propolis is working against the bee venom in a way, and that's the truth, meaning when you have one pollen allergy, you should eat honey and also using the other bee products to get rid of the allergy. Let's look on the history of apilanil. Here we see the inventor, Nicolae Iliescu from Romania. He wrote a book. No, he wrote a couple of books, and it had to do historically with the arrival of the Varroa mite in Europe. And the best technique was the drone frame cutting, which is still today the technique of good control. So, but this gives a lot of drones, and so Nicolae Iliescu, he saw that his chicken, the small chicken, are very well growing with that, and he started looking at this phenomenon, and he more or less invented apilanil, and it culminated in 1983. He patented apilanil in the US, which was exceptional in the time of Cold War, that you go to your war enemy and do a patent there. So he was protected by the party. He came from a village close to Ceausescu, and the freeze drying where apilanil is done was developed in the neighborhood in Moldova, where the Moldovan Republic of the Soviet Union supplied a lot of food for the Soyuz, for the space shuttles from the Russian time at that time. So to make it easier for you, the apilanil, we talk about api. This apis Latin, the bee, like larva, and nil like Nicolae Iliescu, so the guy took his name here. But when you look in other literatures, then we talk also about drone milk. So that is a common name in the Russian literature, and it's very similar also to Turkish language, where we talk about the queen milk. So the drone milk, which is also looking like a milk when you squeeze the larva. So the original apilanil product contains drone wood and perga and honey. So this is very, very important to keep in memory, because you have the synergies of the bee products all together. Of course, in that time, freeze drying was only something for real special people, so for the cosmonauts. And so that was, of course, the drone brood was also something very, very precious. But it's still today a very costly process, and you can enhance the drone brood with the other bee products. So today we produce Apidrone. We have a trade name call it apidron. But when you look back behind the times of Romanian Nicolae Iliescu, then you see in Africa, in Asia, there are a lot of ethnic kitchens where not only bee larvae are used, and yeah, all these larvae are used like a liquid egg, so very sensitive material, very quickly to use, very high in the nutrition values we will see from the apylanil. And so when you are looking for recipes, there are recipes of the FAO. You can find a lot of apylanil recipes for cakes, for example. So let's go here. These are the drone frames. You know them very well. Here, very nice material, uncapped material. Also, the beekeepers like the capped material really to get rid of the drones. And we calculated in a research project in Germany that alone in Germany there are several thousand tons of drone frames thrown away. Yeah, here again, this is a real nice one, very nice, but uncapped, so there is no loss of varroa mites, so that beekeepers don't like it so much. Let's look on the composition. The composition is here based on dry matter, so on the freeze-dry material. We have about 1/3 of proteins and amino acids. We have, and here is to say that we have a lot of amino acids which are vital, so which the human body cannot produce. We have 1/4 is sugars, fructose, furanose, maltose, isomaltose. This isomaltose is very interesting because, for example, this sugar doesn't exist in the royal jelly. Then we have lipids, and lipids means fats, but it means also components of cell membranes, of nerve membranes, a lot of phosphate things. So we will see later the brain function is influenced by this, and you see already here this high content. And then you have a lot of minerals, of course. It is the phosphate, the copper, but also others. We have a lot of vitamins A, E, all the B complex, of course the beta carotene, then some messengers like choline. We have polyphenols, we have stem cells, and we have hormones, human hormones, so testosterone, estrogen. We have 10 times more of hormones than in royal jelly are found. It's slightly acidic, and when you look on this composition, you see you cannot say this is proteins. This is normally people put it in a drawer under proteins, but for me it's this composition, this miracle composition. In the end, when you look back on the frames, on the single individuum, then you see there is one drone is produced in each cell, and there is no rubbish afterwards. This is very, very few of rubbish, and this means that everything of this is vital, including the sugars as a source of energy, and of course also the lipids, as the nerve function must work, and to facilitate this process are the hormones here, the choline. So we have growth rates of 100% a day or more than that. Very astonishing things. If humans have to do this, they would be not possible. So we have, the question is the mode of action, and the mode of action is characterized by 3 things. That first of all, I already mentioned the micronutrients. I already mentioned the amino acids, and also these building blocks where the liver of the human being has not to do much. But let's go a little bit faster. We have the messenger on the hormones. They are responsible for activation. They give a male organism, which is a counterpart of the royal jelly, which gives a female, or a queen organism, improves the conduction in the nerves and the brain, regulates the metabolism, and has antiviral and stimulation of the immune system. So this naked larva lying in this comb is protected from its outer skin from the bacteria and the world which would like to kill it. And of course, these are very basic information which obviously are transferred to creatures like us. We are more developed, but we still can receive this kind of information on a chemical way. We go. Yeah, we have indications, and the time is very short, so I will go through a little bit later in more detail. We have unclear causes. We have developmental disorders for children. We have typical women problem. We have typical male problem. And yeah, you might have heard it that the Apitherapy was the green Viagra. Today it's the least application because it's too slow for the people. The people want a pill and something happening in 30 minutes. With Apitherapy, it takes cycluses, so meaning woman cyclus, 28 days, sperm cyclus, 60 days. So when you go within these 60 days one time in the sauna and cook the sperm, then the fertility also goes down the drain. So we have this fertility problems we have today. I have this, and then we have the metabolism. So let's go a little bit faster about the unclear causes. We have these depression things where people come to us and the doctors say that because they suffer so long, they also physically, mentally affected. Also, it's a physical weakness, and there especially B products and especially Apitherapy is very good. So we have children, development problems with children, chronic nerve disorders, memory problem, but also epilepsy. Here I know a case for cystic fibrosis who lives a quite good life by getting always Apitherapy, puberty disorders. And then we have these things which have the most application is women disorders, so menopause and here miscarriage, improved lactation. And to understand, I think it looks a little bit weird, but when you look on that, what's happening here after a woman gives a birth to a child, the whole hormone balance has to be flipped from being making a child to giving milk to a child, and that gives a lot of hormonal things. Changes have to be done. And the same is in the menopause, that this hormonal shift has to be done, and especially Apitherapy is helping with that. The same with men. We have a lot of studies on animal. I know a very good study for spermatogenesis, for volume, number, mobility, and the offsprings are more healthy, so that's very good. And I only want to highlight here the prostata inflammation, where we use the Apitherapy together with green propolis. The green propolis fights the inflammation, and the Apitherapy shrinks the prostate, so it has a positive influence there. So yeah, I already mentioned fertility problems. There we have a running study at the moment that is really a pressing problem today with with young couples that they cannot get children. Nobody talks about it, but when when you talk with healers and specialized doctors, then they tell you about long queues in front of their doors. So metabolism, we have sports, we have diabetes, and we have alcohol-related digestive problems, which are very good studied, because in this communist time where Apitherapy was invented, the communist elite had nothing else to do than drinking and partying. And when you drink too long and too often, then this with the girls doesn't work. So here this was the miracle to cure that. And today we are more on sports, endurance, and muscle build up is done very, very supported by Apitherapy. So here I cannot tell you too much about the hormonal influence. We have, as a conclusion, I want to give you the dosing. It's 1 to 3 grams a day. It can be case-wise up to 20 grams a day. You should do it in a regimen of 1 to 3 months or even longer. I talked about the cycluses, sperm cycles over 60 days. So if you really want to achieve something, then you have to wait 3 cycluses till really the body has recovered and is more capable in doing the right things. So children have get less, of course, according their weight. We have other bee products like honey, like propolis, for immune stimulation, bacteria. We have the green propolis, I already said here, for inflammation of prostata problems, where we have this real good synergy, where we have really a lot of experience. Then the perga with the microbiome improvement, and the royal jelly is the booster. You can always use 2/3 royal jelly and 1/3 of Apitherapy for women, and for male the opposite. So yeah, of course, bee venom is also a special case, hive air allergy. So this is the bee products support each other. This is very important to keep in mind. And when you give more than one bee product, then you have an equation which is 1 + 1 is more than 2. Important is overdosing is in principle not possible. And men don't take it before bed. So best is before 12 o'clock. Otherwise it activates too much and disturbs the sleep. And it does not interfere with an ongoing chemotherapy. So you can use it if you want to stop it during chemotherapy, okay, but then dose it stronger afterwards to recover. So 1 dose fresh, 3 doses fresh are 1 dose from the freeze dry. This is very important to keep in mind for calculation purposes. Yeah, here is my book. It got a gold medal. We will send it also to Australia. The charges are sending to Australia are lower than sending into Australia, so we have no dealer there. You can contact me here with, you find it on our website, Apizentrum Ruhr. If you have other questions, then you can, or private question, you always can contact me, and I don't know how it's working now with the questions.
Hello everyone, I'm Trong Tran. I'm a lecturer in chemistry at University of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. I would like to thank Bridget and Kelly for inviting me to have a talk about my propolis research in this conference this year. The topic I'm talking today is antioxidant activities and chemical diversity of Australian honeybee propolis. In my presentation, I will introduce briefly about propolis and overview propolis biological properties. I will move to chemical composition of propolis, and finally I will talk about Australian propolis and my research to contribute to the development of Australian propolis industry. I'm pretty sure most of you here know propolis. Briefly, propolis is the resin materials from different parts of plants mixed with beeswax to protect beehives against pathogens and other predators. So propolis composition will contain phenolics and terpenoids coming from resins, beeswax and other minor components such as pollen, soy, dead bees. Although Australia is lucky to have both European and native stingless bees, which can produce propolis. In my presentation today, I will mainly talk about propolis from European honeybees, Apis mellifera. On your right-hand side, the photos show you a yellow and sticky propolis produced by the European honeybees in a hive with and without propolis trap. Traditionally, propolis was used as a wound healing agent and natural antibiotics. However, modern studies have proved that propolis has a wide spectrum of biological activities as listed in this slide. More recently, one study in Brazil and US found Brazilian green propolis can facilitate SARS-CoV-2 treatment. Please notice that not all propolis has these properties, as they depend on the chemical compositions of the plant's resins, bee forage. Good quality propolis should have more resins having bioactive compounds and less beeswax. As a consumer, we often see propolis is used as an active ingredient in dietary supplements, medicated products, cosmeceuticals, and food. On your right-hand side, there are some propolis products that you can find in our chemist or pharmacy store in Australia. In 2020, I published a paper discussing about the chemical compositions of both honeybee propolis and stingless bee propolis. The studies collected chemical structures of 578 compounds, which was isolated from honeybees and stingless bees propolis and characterized by NMR or X-ray crystallography method. But I only want to focus on honeybee propolis chemical compositions in this presentation today. As you see in the chart, Americans reported the most compounds identified from honeybee propolis, while Oceania, including Australia, reported propolis compounds very limiting. From 502 compounds identified from honeybee propolis, about 80% of them are phenolic compounds, which are classified into nearly 30 phenolic subclasses, with a statistic as shown in this slide. Terpenoids occupies about 90%, with mainly diterpenoids and triterpenoids. So far, no alkaloids were isolated from honeybee propolis. Before I move to Australian propolis, I think I should mention 4 well-known and well-studied propolis types in the world. They are poplar propolis, Brazilian green and red propolis, and Pacific propolis. Poplar propolis is only found in temperate countries such as US, Europe, China, New Zealand, and South America. Red and green propolis are in tropical regions in Brazil. Pacific propolis is in the subtropicals and tropical regions and can be found from Okinawa, South Japan, Taiwan to some Pacific islands. Why they are considered as hydrate propolis? Because they contain a high level of phenolic compounds, high recovery yield, and so strong biological activities such as antioxidant, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer. So when you look at these figures, you will find the resins of these propolis come from different parts of the plants. Poplar propolis come from bark resins, Pacific propolis from young fruit resins, Brazilian green propolis from leaf resins, and Brazilian red propolis from bark resins. How about Australian propolis? Australian propolis is still a mystery. Very little information about chemistry, biological properties, and also botanical source of Australian propolis so far. As you might know, Australia is ranked as the 7th most biodiverse country in the world, having over 6% of world plants with 86% of native plants. So we should expect Australia provide diverse and unique propolis type, which cannot be found in any regions in the world. In fact, only propolis in Kangaroo Islands, South Australia, has been fully studied so far. Its product is currently being commercialized, as shown in this slide. Kangaroo Island propolis contained high level of phenolic compounds, with some unique stilbenes having more potent antioxidant than the Brazilian green propolis and more potent anti-cancer activities than the anti-cancer tamoxifen. It was found that sock-set rats and kangaroo thorn plants are two sources providing resins for Kangaroo Island propolis. My lab at University of the Sunshine Coast is running a screening to identify propolis with high level of polyphenolic compounds for further development. As we all know, polyphenolic compounds have strong antioxidant activities, and this is a key factor to boost human immune system and reduce the risk to have other chronic diseases such as cancer, infection, inflammation, heart, diabetes, and neurological disorder. Targeting high polyphenolic propolis will help us find premium products for commercialization and potentially discover special bioactive compounds for the development of nutraceuticals and pharmaceutical products. This flowchart shows you how we are doing in the lab. Raw propolis is ground homogeneously and then extracted in 70% alcohol to remove wax. Alcohol is then removed under vacuum to obtain pure propolis resin. Following assays including total phenolic contents, total flavonoid contents, and antioxidant activities are conducted to assess the qualities, particularly antioxidant activities of propolis. My lab is also doing chemical profiling using LCMS and NMR. This database will be valuable for future study about authentication and traceability of Australian propolis. We completed a pilot study for Australian honeybee propolis in 2 years. We obtained over 200 samples which were donated by beekeepers across the country. A map on your right-hand side reveals the number of samples and their geography where the propolis was collected. Although these samples absolutely did not cover the whole country, this pilot study will give us a snapshot of the quality of Australian propolis and if Australian propolis is diverse and unique as our hypothesis in the reverse slide. On figures at the bottom of this slide give you a small subset of propolis samples in the studies with different color: brown, dark brown, black, red, red-brown, orange, or yellow. They have intense aromatic resins and sweet honey flavor also. These graphs show you the results we found from the pilot study. On the blue dots are Australian propolis samples. The orange dot is poplar propolis from New Zealand and Uruguay. Green and red dots are Brazilian green and red propolis. I included poplar and Brazilian propolis in my study as controls to assess the quality of the Australian propolis. On propolis extracts was tested at 100 microgram per ml to scavenge 100 micromole of DBBH free radicals. Australian propolis scavenge 59% of DBBH on average, while the reference samples shows over 90%. However, we also could find some Australian propolis show antioxidant activity comparable with the Brigham propolis as reference. The total phenolic contents of Australian propolis vary from 1 to 180 mg gallic acid equivalent per grams of propolis extract, with an average of 68 gram gallic acid equivalent. Total flavonoid contents of Australian propolis ranged from 1 to 145 mg quercetin equivalent per grams of propolis extract, with an average of 24 mg quercetin equivalent. Similarly to the antioxidant activities, results of total phenolic contents and total flavonoid contents show us there are some Australian propolis types with comparable or even better activities compared to poplar and Brazilian green or red propolis. Because the study was conducted after the droughts and bushfires happening in Australia in 2019 and 2020, we think the drought and bushfires affected negatively to the findings and worsened the results obtained. To investigate chemical diversity of Australian propolis, I separated my propolis database into two groups based on their total phenolic contents. Group 1 is high-rate propolis, with total phenolic contents is over 75 milligrams gallic acid equivalent. Group 2 is low-rate propolis, with total phenolic contents is less than 75 milligrams gallic acid equivalent. The untargeted multivariate statistical principal components analysis based on their proton NMR signals indicated there are significant discrimination in chemical composition of the high-rate propolis collected in Queensland, South Australia and Western Australia, where Tasmania, New South Wales and Victoria propolis don't show any significant difference. The low-rate propolis group don't show any significant discrimination in chemical compositions among samples collected across the country. The chemical profiling study on the current database revealed Australia has 16 high-rate propolis types, and generally they are very unique in each Australian state. Queensland has 4 high-rate propolis types, South Australia has 5 unique types, Western Australia has 3, New South Wales has 2, Tasmania has 1. And there is one propolis type which dominated samples collected in New South Wales, Tasmania and Victoria. Interestingly, their chemical profile is similar to the popular propolis in Uruguay and New Zealand. So you can find results of my study in details in the scientific report paper, which was published a few months ago. In addition to screening the antioxidant activities and chemical profiling, my lab is also running research to identify bioactive compounds in propolis as described in this flowchart. We are trying to discover compounds with potential for the applications of nutraceuticals, cosmeceuticals, and pharmaceutical products, such as antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, anti-diabetes, and wound healing compounds. This is an example of what we found and published. We did a screening of over 200 propolis extracts and found 5 propolis extracts showing potent inhibition against alpha-leucosidase and comparable to the anti-diabetic drugs acarbose, which was also included in the screening as the control. 3 out of 5 propolis extracts were from Queensland and had similar chemical profile, which belonged to one propolis type. After multiple steps of bioassays and chromatography, 6 active breath-related flavonoids was isolated. A full result of this research was published recently on food journals as shown in this slide. Interestingly, chemical profile of the bioactive Queensland propolis is relatively similar to the profile of Pacific propolis in Taiwan, reported previously. The only difference is Queensland propolis has one flavonone, solophenol D, which hasn't been reported in Taiwanese propolis. Taiwanese propolis is also show anti-diabetics on an in vivo study as reported in Nutrients journals a few years ago. And currently, this Taiwanese propolis is commercialized as a supplement in Taiwan. Because Australian propolis has been underexplored, my study provided better understanding this new resource. We can see Australian propolis has sometimes with potent antioxidant activity suitable for the development of nutraceutical, cosmeceutical, and pharmaceutical products. However, they are very diverse in chemical compositions, so understanding their compositions is the next step we should do. Before my study, there were some expectations about the presence of the popular and Pacific propolis in Australia. However, no scientific data proved that hypothesis. So my study confirmed they are both present in Australia now. With the The With a current propolis library contain over 300 Australian propolis extract, I hope to find more collaborators who are interested in the discovery of new therapeutic properties for Australian propolis to work on this valuable resource and bring more values to Australian beekeepers and apiary industry. To end up my talk, I would like to thank my collaborators, Australian beekeepers, and I also acknowledge Hive and Guernsey Australia, Refuge Australia, and UniSAs for the funding support. If you are interested in Australian propolis and want to collaborate with me in any research or translational projects regarding to the development of Australian propolis.
Welcome everybody. Today I'm going to talk about native Australian flora used in bush medicine. My name's Serena Biddle. A little about me. I'm a registered beekeeper currently doing Certificate 3 in beekeeping with trap and store pollen as an elective. My sons and I have been working with bees since about 2017. I had a 22mm Chiari malformation with my first surgery in 2012 called a Chiari decompression, in which they removed part of my skull, put in a dura patch, and did a spinal laminectomy of C1 and C2, and I also had a titanium Chiari plate added in 2015. I'm currently studying the Apitherapy online course with Dr. Stefan Stangishu and at apitherapy.com, and I'm also a current member of the Australian Apitherapy Association. This is my first talk, so I'm a little nervous. If I fumble my words, I'm sorry. So here we go. And this is me with my bees and my two sons, Cody and Zach. I live in Clearview, South Australia. There's my contact details. As I said, I live in Clearview in Australia, in South Australia. So this is South Australia down here, and we've got Adelaide right down here. So this is Adelaide, and I'm up in here in Clearview, which is about 10 minutes from Adelaide. We also have beehives all over the suburbs of South Australia. And today I begin acknowledging the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of the land from which my presentation is being given, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and extend my respect to the First Nation, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here today. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are advised that this presentation may have images, recordings and voices of those that may have passed on. This paper will outline the plant contribution to bush medicine. I will touch on a variety of these and then go into more detail on two bush medicine plants of significance in benefiting the fight against ageing. I will also discuss the Aboriginal use of sugar bag honey from native bees. Bush medicine is drawing on the environment to treat using herbs as a holistic three-step process, along with singing and spiritual treatment to better the health and well-being of Aboriginal people by using their traditional ties to their culture with the land. And that's just the process of how First Nation people are treated now. So they have the traditional medicine and then the Western medicine. Now they work together because if traditional medicine don't work, they refer them to Western medicine, and if they can't find anything in the Western medicine, then they refer them to the traditional medicine people called the Ngangkari, which are usually elders of the tribe. Traditional methods of Australian bush medicine cures are lost due to the forgetting of language, fractured communities, restricted access to traditional land, and other Western impacts. Knowledge was never written down but passed through stories, singing, smoking and dancing ceremonies. Eating right was one of the main parts of their health and wellness, and a lot of the bush tucker is also bush medicine. There are many native plants used by Aboriginal people in bush medicine. Professor Jyan Jamie, a chemist from Macquarie University in Sydney, has compiled a database of Aboriginal plants. Many of the plants she documented contained antibacterial and anti-inflammatory compounds that are well known to Western medicine. Chemical compounds from the plants used can be classed in 5 different compound categories. Tannins, usually found in the bark but often in the fruits and leaves, are complex chemicals which are astringent, draw the tissues together and contract them, which is useful for treating surfaces such as the inflamed mucous membranes characteristic of coughs and colds. It is also good for bathing wounds. Mucilage, used as a soothing medication for inflamed mucous membranes. Oils from plants with oil glands such as the eucalyptus and the mint family, which are described as aromatic. A number of oils have antimicrobial action. Latex found in plants that produce white sap, which may be harmless, such as the fig trees, though often can be irritating or even corrosive. Latex contains enzymes that can digest protein, which is very useful when treating warts or in topical cleaning of surfaces of ulcers and wounds. Alkaloids, the most important type of medicinal plant. Usually they have a bitter taste and can be poisonous, and sometimes can be therapeutic like the opium poppy. Methods used for preparation, external or topical. Crushing the flora or fauna with the option of heating and applying to the skin or joint, or with smearing the sap on the skin. Inhalation through boiling and inhaling the vapor, or smoking ceremonies that can create a sterile environment. Internally, drunk as a tea, chewed or eaten. These are some of the books available on bush medicine and Australian medicinal plants. For example, Noongar Bush Medicine, Australian Medicinal Plants and Traditional Healers of Central Australia, Ngangkari. Some of the plants used in bush medicine are eucalyptus. There are many species of the eucalyptus, and it's proven antibacterial and has analgesic properties. It can treat colds and respiratory problems, joint and muscle pain, dental health, fungal infections and wounds. The gum or sap of the tree has high tannin content and can be used to seal cuts and burns. Some eucalyptus, like the lemon-scented gum, can be crushed and rubbed on the skin as an insect repellent. Eucalyptus also has aromatic properties and can be inhaled to benefit breathing and respiratory issues. Tea tree or Melaleuca tetrafolia endel can be crushed and inhaled to treat headaches, brewed as a tea for throat ailments, and to relieve colds. It can also be applied to wounds and superficial injuries. The oil is used as a natural antiseptic, has proven antimicrobial properties and antivirals. It is also an effective skin care treatment for blemishes and acne-prone skin. Spinifex grass, Triodes plant, used to soothe inflamed skin, and the resins and waxes from this plant are also used. Emu bush, Emerophila longifolia, and narrow-leaved poverty bush, Emerophila alternifolia, leaves have been used as a concoction for sores and wounds, as an infusion for colds, headaches, chest pain, and a diarrhea treatment. It is also smoked to create a sterile environment for babies and healing new mothers. Bloodwort, Corymbia opaca, the sap of this tree is smeared on sore eyes, cuts, burns, sores, open wounds, working like a band-aid, sealing the wound. It can also be boiled and drunk and is good for kidneys, chest infections, and cancer. Snake vine, Tinnispora smilacina, is an anti-inflammatory and antiseptic bush medicine plant. The leaves and stems are warmed and mashed into a poultice, which is used topically for arthritis, pain in joints, and other inflammatory injuries. The sap is also used as a broad-spectrum antiseptic. Goat's foot or beech morning glory, Impomea pescapre, is poisonous if not prepared properly. The leaves are crushed and heated, then applied as a poultice directly to the skin for pain relief of stings, bites from insects, stingray stings, snake bites, and stonefish stings. It's also used as a cure for skin irritations, boils, skin infections, ringworm, and hemorrhoids. Witchy grubs. These are classed as fauna. They are both bush tucker and bush medicine. They are a great source of protein, have good fats and vitamin C. It's used externally as a treatment for burns and open wounds, where they crush the witchetty grub into a paste and then put it on the skin and cover it with a bandage to help the skin heal. Native lemongrass, used to treat a variety of illnesses from colds and sore throats to diarrhea, skin rashes, sores, headaches, and migraines. The root of the grass can be made into a tincture that is applied to soothe sore ears. Native pine, Kilotrius gracilis. The leaves and twigs can be boiled and placed on the chest for cold and flu, used as an ointment to treat skin rashes, used for general illnesses, and is traditionally burned and used as smoking medicine. The resinous sticks can also be used as teething sticks for babies. Clay, mud and dirt. The beneficial absorption and binding powers of clay minerals help cure gastrointestinal toxins produced by infection and also allowing the inclusion of toxic plants into the Aboriginal diet without getting sick. Topically, direct application of specific types of soil were used on fresh wounds. A known source of mud and sediment can be used to relieve and act as a physical barrier to slow down the growth of infections upon open wounds. The two plants of significance I will go into more detail are the kangaroo apple and the kakadu plum, also known as the billy goat plum. These are both great for the skin, tissues, and the fight against aging. Here's why. Kangaroo apple, Solanum laciniatum, has dark green leaves which are deeply lobed or toothed. The flowers are purple and have 5 petals. The fruit is egg-shaped and changes from green to red and orange as they ripen. The leaves and fruit are poisonous prior to ripening. Although the unripened fruit was boiled and drunk as a tea by Aboriginal women for female contraception, supported by Critchley 2018. Kangaroo apple contains amino acids that create and maintain smooth, healthy, younger-looking skin. They also encourage exfoliation of dead skin cells. A kangaroo apple extract contains anti-inflammatory properties to soothe irritated, stressed skin. Its wound-healing properties can speed up the healing of scars. Kakadu plum or billy goat plum, excuse me, Terminalia ferdinandia, has deciduous pale green leaves with small creamy white perfumed flowers. The fruit is yellow and green, with the ripe fruit being very pale and even pinkish. Kakadu plum is the world's richest botanical source of vitamin C. They're a great source of vitamins, antioxidants, and many nutrients, like fiber, copper, zinc, magnesium, folate, calcium, and vitamin E. It is also rich in plant compounds like agallic acid, and flavonoids. Vitamin C is important for the collagen production, which improves fine lines, wrinkles, and helps our skin slow down the aging process. It benefits by improving elasticity, which further helps reduce the signs of aging. Kakadu plum brightens the skin, cures pimples, protects the skin from damage caused by the sun's UV rays, increases skin hydration, and fights the early signs of aging. If you have hyperpigmentation blemishes or dark spots, then using a serum of kakadu plum will have benefits. Aboriginal people and native bees. Aboriginal people in the northern and eastern states of Australia have been utilising the benefits of native bees for centuries. Australia has around 12 species of native bees that do not sting. And on this map is where they are mainly found, in the coloured areas. The main species are the Trigona species, and the Australoplebia species are 2 of these. These bees produce sugar bag honey, a highly prized bush tucker and medicine of the Aborigines, who gathered it from wild nests that produce less than 1 kilo of honey per year. Native bee honey has a distinct flavour, which is sweet and tangy with eucalyptus and lemon notes. It's high in antibacterial and antimicrobial properties. The honey has a cloudy appearance, meaning that there's a high propolis content, producing antibacterial, anti-inflammatory property and antimicrobial properties. Native Australian honey contains a rare and naturally occurring sugar profile that is different from other honeys. It's called trihalulose, and it has a lower glycemic index, or GI, than regular honey. All consumers get this benefit, but diabetics are mainly impacted without getting that rapid increase of blood sugar caused by glucose and fructose. Trihallulose is absorbed more slowly into the bloodstream. University of Queensland organic chemist Associate Professor Mary Fletcher has identified specific bioactive components of stingless bee honey, providing evidence that supports the health and benefits of native bee honey. Native bee honey is stored and infused with propolis or bee glue, shown by numerous researchers to have valuable healing and biomedical properties, including antibacterial properties, comparable with medicinal grade Manuka honey. Aboriginals used to follow the bees by sometimes gluing feathers onto the bees and following them back to the nest. They would then harvest the full nest. The sugar bag honey was eaten, wax, honey, pupae, dead bees, ants, and all. They sometimes squeezed the honey from the comb into containers, saving it for later. The wax was extracted and then beaten and mixed with powdered charcoal or ochre and rolled into balls or lengths and used for sealing waterproofing containers used on tools and for the mouthpieces of didgeridoos. Honey was used to clean the gut by eating large amounts of honey or large amounts of pollen mixed with water. In eating the honey, they also had the benefits of the propolis. A quick recipe, which is a soothing face mask for us to use and feel the amazing benefits of native Australian flora for our skin. We're going to have 1/3 of a cup of instant oatmeal, 1/2 a cup of hot water, a tablespoon of Manuka honey, 1 to 2 tablespoons of plain yogurt, a tablespoon of Australian pink clay, and a teaspoon of Kakadu plum powder. Mix it together and apply it to your face, and after 5 to 10 minutes, wash your face clean. Then apply your usual moisturisers. In conclusion, a word of caution, as many Australian plants are highly toxic and difficult for an inexperienced person to identify. Ngangkari referred to the traditional healers, Aboriginal elders of high degree, that are present in Western health clinics to perform rituals and give medical advice. There's a link to one of the Ngangkaris that I could find. Like all medicines, bush medicine should be taken with care and advised by traditional owners, healers, or naturopath professionals. In addition, most plants require permission from traditional landowners before you can harvest any flora and/or may be prohibited by law in some locations. Thank you very much for paying attention and for your company. And my references quickly.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the organizers of the Australian Apitherapy Association Conference and Dr. Kelly Whitaker for their acceptance of this talk and you for your presence. My name is Genoveva Ocampo and I live in Mexico, where many stingless bees also live, and my talk is called The Sacred Properties of Tropical Stingless Bees Honey for the Ancient Maya People. The Maya groups of the Yucatan Peninsula, as well as other indigenous groups of southern Mexico, are known for their cultures and amazing outcomes that contributed to the construction and permanence of societies of great riches and welfare for their inhabitants. One of these activities was the care and breeding of some species of native stingless bees of the family Apidae tribe Meliponini. These bees that have many varied and interesting names in indigenous languages are called in the mainly Spanish-speaking continent of America as meliponinos, meliponins, or meliponas, melipons. And so people of communities, breeders, traditional and allopathic doctors, and investigators recognize we are referring to the native stingless bees. In the constant language evolution, we have created a new term, meliponicultura, melipony keeping, that does not appear yet in the Real Diccionario de la Lengua Española, but will probably be incorporated in a short time due to its importance for thousands of people from different countries. There are approximately 500 species of native bees in tropical America, from southern USA to Argentina, and the melipony keeping is widespread and had been preserved mostly in small remote communities of indigenous culture up to a few years ago. But the activity has become of interest for, for many people, and without doubt, it has been because of the medicinal uses of the honey of Melipona bees that has been transmitted from mouth to mouth by the good experiences that many patients have had. In the past, the Melipona honey was a specially coveted product, valued for its medicinal properties and for its ritual importance in the elaboration of sacred beverages and food used in religious ceremonies. This is documented in manuscripts written in Maya language, preserved by the indigenous people throughout the difficult centuries of colonial domination. They are dated approximately from the 16th to the 18th century. Among these anonymous texts that deal with medical practices, we find the Ritual of the Bacades, the books of the tradition of Chilam Balam, the Recetario de Indios en Lengua Maya, and some others that include healing incantations and prescriptions for the preparation of remedies based on the honey of the native bee Melipona bici, which could be used either alone as main ingredient or as a vehicle for other healing products, mainly plants. Why was the honey endowed with such power to cure? For the Maya, the energy of all living and non-living beings was a force called kinam. Probably the word kinam derives from the word kin, that means sun, which might indicate that the power was like that of the sun deity. The honey had such a strong kinam that it was considered a sacred food, used in the ritual offerings to the Mayan gods. Honey, cab, in Maya, was used to treat all kinds of diseases, prepared and dosed adequately, but always as a principal ingredient, capable of restoring a patient's lost balance. It appears as the fundamental curative element, added to plants that were macerated, cooked, roasted, or burned to ashes. It was rubbed or anointed alone or with plants to form a paste or a liquid that was applied over the sick member, bruises, ulcers, wounds on the eyes, inside the ear, or covering the organ to be treated. I will quote the recipes in English using scientific names for the plants, but keeping the way in which they were written to honor those medical specialists that risk even their lives to preserve this part of Maya culture. In the case of burnt skin, honey was applied alone. For chuchup kalil, swollen neck, I quote, you take the malacracta palmata, mallows, and honey. Let them be mashed and let him drink it, or else let him drink milk and cinnamon mixed with honey, and let a little of it be applied wherever the swelling is. In the remedies, honey was used to cure diseases of respiratory, digestive, circulatory, and immunological systems, and for maladies of the sensory organs, such as the skin, eyes, ears, mouth. An important part of the literature is dedicated to a group of diseases that were named fevers. Other refers to those illnesses typical of the Maya culture that I call sicknesses of the Maya worldview, with defined traits and supernatural etiology. In these regions characterized by a high biodiversity, another important application of honey was a remedy against the stings and bites of scorpions, spiders, tarantulas, bugs, ants, and venomous serpents. In the Mayan classification of diseases, the most important division is between cold and hot diseases. This is also multiplied in other parts of the world. It is a thing that humans have as a real reference. The cold sicknesses were sent by gods or entities that inhabited the cold, dark, damp portion of the Maya universe, the underworld. And they exhibited traits that reflected their surroundings. They were cold, damp, and dark. Many of the respiratory maladies were considered cold diseases. To cure the white phlegm, whose symptoms make us suspect tuberculosis, the elements of the prescription included expectorants like pepper, chili, capsicum annum, and tobacco, Nicotiana tabacum or Nicotiana rustica. In honey. In this case, as well as in other prescriptions, it is clear that the ingredients were prepared searching for a balance between the intrinsic qualities of the disease and the properties of the remedies. The phlegm disease was cold, and the constituents of the medicine were hot. Honey was a hot product due to its origin and properties, because the bees, the stingless bees, were considered deities related to the sun god. And this made honey especially valuable to treat the problems that women experienced before, during, and after giving birth. In this situation, the parturient was in an extremely cold and dangerous state because she had come close to death and to the underworld. Consequently, she was invaded by the negative forces and spirits that dwelt in this place. Honey was used to expel the placenta, cal y bin. I quote, "The remedy is honey heated with a little sugar, not much, roasted, powdered, and stirred thoroughly into the hot honey. Let it be given to drink to the patient. It will be good to put immediately the blood of a chicken in it, the blood from the leg of a chicken. When for 2 days the afterbirth may be retarded in part, administer the other remedy for the afterbirth, grated chaya, Nidoloscus chayamansa, with honey and chili capsicum annum. Let it be drunk warm." Unquote. In this prescription, you observe the addition of an element that is hot in itself, the blood, to counteract the placenta's coldness and promote its detachment. It also involves the use of 2 plants originated in this continent, chaya and chili. Honey was rubbed on the woman's abdomen before birth and was also taken as a beverage to promote the labor. To this day, in the Mexican states of Yucatan, Quintana Roo, and Campeche, women who are attended during labor by traditional midwives also receive this treatment before giving birth. The midwife anoints honey over the woman's stomach to help increase the contractions, to correct the position of the child, and to protect both from the coldness of the moment. This is accompanied by other rituals in which help from supernatural beings is summoned to make the labor short and the delivery successful. Another cold disease, a dangerous case of chibal puksik, heart pain, is treated with 3 different constituents in the prescription, all hot: honey, anise, pimpinella anisum, and wine. I quote, "Or else you burn honey with roasted anise, mix with wine, and put it on a cloth, like a thick cake baked in hot ashes. Then you bind it on the heart hot." The mixture was probably used as an effort to reanimate this organ in case of heart failure. With respect to the hot diseases, fevers are amply quoted. According to the Maya worldview, these illnesses were sent by gods, beings, or forces that belonged to the hot, dry, luminous part of the universe, the supernatural world. These beings possessed a very powerful constitution that could damage humans in a severe way. In the case of a skin eruption accompanied by fever, uchaquil hobonte kak, 3 herbs, lemon juice, and fresh honey were integrated to prepare a beverage for the patient. I quote, Some of the most notorious symptoms of a great number of heart diseases are rashes, spots, pustules, and abscesses on the skin. In the documents that support this investigation, a very serious disease called Ekpetskak smallpox is mentioned. I quote, "There is also black confluent smallpox, Ekpetskak. This is the remedy, the blossom and the leaf and the outside of the red Plumeria rubra frangipani. Let this all be roasted, then you mash them and you add a little honey from the hive, raw honey. Then you heat it to just the right temperature and you give it to drink to anyone who has this eruption in order that it may put an end to the burning and the throbbing." Unquote. Several diseases of the digestive tract were treated with honey. Diarrhea with severe colic named Ulom Tokil-Hubnak was treated with 6 native plants.
Hello, my name is John Fulbright, and today I'm going to talk briefly about Japanese meridian apitherapy and how did I end up getting involved with bee venom therapy, and how do we proceed with treating or addressing Lyme disease. And essentially, I'm not trying to do any sort of diagnosing or quote treating of Lyme disease directly. What this method of Hoshindo Japanese meridian therapy, the theories come from basic 5-element medicine theory, same as in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. And what we're looking at with this therapy is with Lyme disease, we often have a high load of toxins in the body, a dysregulation of the body's systems, a miscommunication in the nervous system. We get a lot of overload of different toxins from either the organisms in Lyme disease or the co-infections. And then we also have our own digestive processes that get clogged up. So I read of Edgar Cayce talking about how in healing there's several levels, 4 main things, the acronym CARE, C-A-R-E, C being an element of consciousness involved, assimilation that has to happen in the body, repair, rejuvenation is the R in CARE, and that has to happen in the body, and then E is the elimination. And this is where bee venom comes in with Lyme disease in a way that is very powerful, because in my own experience, once I started using even small amounts of bee venom, I noticed a high degree of ammonia coming out of my system. As the ammonia came out, I felt much better, and it took me and my wife a couple of years to understand what was happening in terms of protein digestion, liver stagnation, and endotoxin die-off using bees, and so or any antibiotic or antiviral. And so it's a very complicated thing to try to treat. There's often Lyme disease has been embedded for a while before people realize they have it. There's going to be a severe depletion of minerals and vitamins. We're going to have disruption of amino acids. We're going to have disruption of the immune system, and we're going to have mineral imbalances and hormone imbalances. The immune system may struggle desperately with many different things. So how do we address this? And so we look at that same acronym of CARE. And with bee venom, what I'm bringing to the plate with this type of medicine is a very holistic approach from ancient China. Several main components that I've put together with the Japanese meridian therapy. I brought in ancient Tao medical charts from Master Chen of Wudang, China. And what we do is we do a birth chart reading, and we look at the main 10 meridians, the 10 primary meridians, and we call this a 10 palace reading. And what this does is this allows each patient to see sort of the psychology and the physiology behind the meridian function from birth forward. And it gives us an idea of how to address that consciousness element and understand where we carry our wounds and where we have strengths and weaknesses. Beyond that, we do an extensive medical intake. I recommend all my patients to work with an MD or a medical doctor if they can, in order to get these tests done to understand hormone imbalances, mineral imbalances, and vitamin deficiencies and things. And so as its own system, it's very holistic. It looks at every patient differently. And same as when we move on with treating somebody, we work with each patient, and each patient, depending on how well they detox, they can move at different speeds. So what we try to do is we start off with bee venom, doing a testing. If people are aware of their allergies and if they feel they are allergic to bee venom, it's not a deal breaker, because you can go to an MD and get what's called low-dose immunotherapy, and they can give you small doses of bee venom subcutaneous, and over time your body's immune system will respond to that and moderate. And then once you've gone through enough time with the low-dose immunotherapy, you'd be able to use living bee venom at that point. But in the beginning, what we do is we start with a testing, and we'll do that testing on the belly, where there's a bit of, usually a little bit of tissue there. And then what we'll do is monitor for any sort of reactions. I never do a treatment without having at least 4 EpiPens handy and some liquid antihistamine Benadryl, children's Benadryl, so that we can stop any sort of allergic reaction that occurs. And you do need both. EpiPens work right away, but they don't sustain the reaction to go away, but Benadryl will. So I'd start with liquid Benadryl, and then if they have issues with swelling, itching in the palms and the feet, hives going all over the body, then I would be standing by with the EpiPen. If anything with the airways involved, then we get the EpiPen going right away. So anyways, that's your frontline defense, besides not overdoing it in the early days. So we start with 1 sting, and we allow that to kind of process, and you can give it a few days. And then we're also wanting to address several key factors. So as Amber Rose, Dr. Amber Rose, acupuncturist and bee venom therapist, has been instrumental in helping thousands of people understand some basic protocols. She's done medical trials on this. You can read different medical trials with Amber Rose, Dr. Amber Rose, and her big recommendations that helped my teacher and other people get a little more holistic approach on this was that if we're going to be using bees, we need to use a lot of vitamin C. The vitamin C, we prefer natural source vitamin C, 3,000 milligrams a day, mixed over doses. And then if you get too much more than that, or if you reach loose motion in your bowels, then that tells you that you've kind of reached your tolerance in the belly. And so you would kind of want to reduce your vitamin C intake by about 500 to 1,000 milligrams if you start getting loose motion. But the key is vitamin C is really essential for adrenal function. It's essential for the immune system. It's essential for the liver to metabolize many things. So it's often what's very depleted, and a lot of Lyme patients deal with adrenal fatigue. And so you almost need to address that essentially in the beginning. The other thing that you're going to want to do is, after we add any venom, you're going to need to detox. And the detox pathways with Lyme disease get pretty clogged up. It seems that bee venom acts as some form of a solvent, if you will, and it seems to really help the liver bring out ammonia, something I see in many of my Lyme patients. And it's an essential element of one of my things that I'd like to see in a clinical trial, is to really look at this ammonia element and see how bee venom really brings out this cleansing effect of the tissues. The other thing that we do to help detox is we use Epsom salt baths, and we add magnesium, and we also do hydrogen peroxide in the baths to help assist these detox pathways. Also, you can use clays, charcoal, zeolite clay is very effective, and same as if you were treating somebody with severe mold. And often with Lyme disease, we see mold as a component as well as heavy virus loads like Epstein-Barr, shingles, chickenpox, many different things. COVID long haul actually triggers a lot of Lyme patients as well. So once we get that going with the detoxing, apple cider vinegar, lemon, these kinds of things can really help assist in the detox process. So once we start using bee venom, we can only move as fast as our bodies can detox. If we exceed that limit, we're going to have histamine issues, and we may have Herxheimer reactions from too much endotoxin die-off. And so we're going to have to really be careful and be flexible with how we progress. On the other hand, you also want to continue to progress. If possible, you want to amp up and start getting higher and higher doses of bee venom going gradually for some, faster for others. Really depends on how well people are detoxing. So besides moving along slowly and working with each patient, having them work with their doctors to really get a good understanding, part of the medical intake is to help understand the consciousness element of what got us into this situation that Lyme may take a long time to get out of, that it may take a long time to become embedded. And then so we want to kind of have an attitude of endurance and being able to chisel away and not go too fast too soon. If you go too fast too soon, you can have a excessive die-off of endotoxins and fragments, cellular fragments, if you will, that end up choking up and clogging the lymph system. And so we really have to pay attention to our detox protocols as we move through this. Okay, there's also going to be a lot of mineral and vitamin imbalances, like I said, and these are going to be essential in getting the body to produce decent blood again and stronger blood. And so getting that mineral and also hormone awareness is also going to be really important. Bee venom seems to improve cell-to-cell communication. From the research I've done, bee venom is shown to be a neurotransmitter, a neuroprotective substance, as well as neurorestorative. So it works very well in cleaning up nerve function and synapse and doing quite a lot of things for the nervous system. The other things that we do is that when we start working with bee venom on the body, we want to just work mostly on the core. If we go to the extremities too quickly, including the head, there's going to be a lot more die-off coming out at a rapid rate. So Amber Rose has suggested that when you're working with somebody that's had a very difficult case of Lyme disease embedded, that you're going to want to move forward very carefully from the torso. So you start on the torso, you can work those areas, you can work different meridians. And what we're doing in Japanese meridian therapy is we're using a combination of full stings and a combination of light stings or micro stings. Now, I've been criticized that micro stings are too little venom, and that if you're using too little venom, you can eventually create an allergic reaction in the body, and that you're not getting enough venom to subdue that. And so it's a little bit counterintuitive, but what the allergy specialists I've talked to have said that what's really important is once you begin to work up in number of venom and the amount of venom, that you want to maintain consistency. On some level, you have to kind of work up to 5 bees a week, and then you want to kind of maintain that and not go too far below that. So 20 bees a month, 5 bees a week, that gives you kind of a way where you can start chiseling away at things. Then as you progress through the treatments, you feel like you're detoxing well, if you're able to feel better, then what we're doing is we're using the 5-element medicine theories. We're using the traditional Chinese medicine sort of abilities to look at what are the symptoms we're getting, what kind of a diagnosis can we see by the eyes, the color, the tongue, the feeling in the body, the sensations, whether we have anxiety or insomnia, all these kinds of things all play a part in how we go, where we go on the body. Once we start moving away from the core of the body and we start treating the extremities, we can have quite a lot of new die-off happen as well as quite a lot of symptom relief. With Lyme disease and COVID long haul and some of these other things, it seems that one of the biggest problems is the brain fog. And from what I've seen with most of my patients, a lot of this brain fog can be driven relating to the body's ability to detox and what's happening with the ammonia and the Krebs cycle in the liver. Something about bee venom is seeming to be a solvent, like I said, for this, and trying to help move these endotoxins and different liver toxins out of the body. And so I've seen a very minor amount of venom being used on the head when we've been able to work through the torso and up to the head or the extremities, that we start to see a rapid improvement and dramatic improvement in brain function and better sleep.
Put it in a lot, so we're just going to let it sit there for a moment, okay?
You can tap on it if you want, the sack. You
What?
can smack the sack a little.
Just to get it in it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, I think that's good. Do you feel it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hello. Thank you very much, Dr. Bridget, for this great opportunity. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you today. This event is a very special one, and it is a great pleasure to be representing Brazil as my lecturer. I will share my screen and start my presentation. In order to avoid compromise my presentation with my picture, I will close my video, and so we can go ahead. So the title of my presentation today is Antioxidant Effects of the Oral Use of Propolis Extract, a before and after clinical trial. For whom don't know me, I am Andresa Berreta. I am pharmacist. I have my master and doctor and postdoctoral degree at University of São Paulo in the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Science from Ribeirão Preto. I am currently the head of R&D at Apitherapy, a bee products company, and I am currently the president of ABML. I am now the convener of Working Group 2 at ISO in the leadership of Propolis standard elaboration. And also I am a member of ABNT, the standardization body at Brazil. This is my R&D team at Apsflora, and our results will be presented in the next slides. I would like to start my presentation talk something very fast about oxidative stress, since it is very important in the aging process, or in the case of the disease that we will have with the aging. Maintaining cell viability requires a continuous process of energy production, which is largely accomplished by mitochondria. In this process, reactive oxygen species are formed, many of which participate in the control of cellular homeostasis, acting as biochemical intracellular signaling or even controlling gene expression. Under condition of hypoxia, aging, or cell damage, this respiratory chain may be decoupled, leading to the formation of reactive substances such as aldehydes, malondihyde, superoxides, and peroxides, which in turn damages nucleic acids and cellular membrane. Under physiological condition, there is a balance between free radical production and its elimination. However, excess of production of oxygen-free radicals, defined as oxidative stress, can lead to cell damage and be part of a number of some chronic degenerative diseases observed in humans, such as cancer, inflammatory and cardiovascular disease, diabetes, atherosclerosis, and Alzheimer's, besides some others. Antioxidant defenses are composed of enzymatic mechanisms such as glutathione peroxidase, catalase, and superoxide dismutase, and dozens of substances that play a role in binding and neutralizing free radicals. These substances may be endogenous or exogenous, as some food supplements as flavonoids, carotenoids, polyphenols, ascorbic acid, and vitamin E, besides others. In our case, the complementary medicine can be from bees as royal jelly, propolis, honey, and others. Considering some chronic diseases have pathophysiological mechanisms involving oxidative damage by free radical generation, there is an interest in studying the use of functional food or nutritional supplements with antioxidant properties to prevent the worsening of such chronic diseases. Thus, the main objective of this study was to evaluate the antioxidant effect of standardized propolis extract for oral use in healthy volunteers. I would like to start with a preclinical study that we did in vitro model, in fact, decided to introduce the clinical study. This study was published some years ago and was entitled Effect of Brazilian Green Propolis on the Production of Reactive Oxygen Species by Stimulated Neutrophils. So, the purpose of this study was to evaluate the percentage of the inhibition of some extracts as alcoholic extracts and some fractions as butanolic, chloroformic, and oxidant fraction. And we used the quercetin as the standard. We used the chemiluminescence as the model, and the neutrophils was stimulated with zimosan in order to produce the free radicals. We used some models as luminol and lucigenin to evaluate the percentage of inhibition of the fractions used, and quercetin was the reference standard. Here you can see that the reference standard is this curve of division is here, and we have several others. And it's possible to see that the butanolic fraction and the chloroformic fraction obtained the best antioxidant activity in this first model, followed by the others. The alcoholic extract is here. In the case of the food additives, food supplements, we usually use the ethanol extract of propolis. But here we only fractionated using some solvents in order to try to identify the compounds that were involved in this process. In the next stage, I will show you the chromatograms. In this other protocol, we also observed the antioxidant activity in this second model with some more similar results between the curves, considering the statistical analysis, different from this one, where butanolic and chloroformic fraction obtained the best results. And the isolated compounds that we studied was camphoride, isosaccharinetin, aromatendrin 4-methyl ether, 3-prenyl paracumaric acid, and quercetin, that was the reference standard. And the results of this evaluation demonstrated that camphoride was so potent as quercetin, followed by the others that was very close in the antioxidant activity. Here, the isolated compounds that we evaluated, demonstrating that camphoride, this flavonoid, was the most important one. Here, the fingerprint of the fractions of butanolic fraction and chloroformic fraction, demonstrating that the compounds identified here, and some of them was isolated and evaluated in this model. Camphoride is this one. Here, the results of the percentage of the inhibition, demonstrating that the butanolic and chloroformic fraction demonstrated the highest percentage of inhibition, followed by camphoride. And in this other model, the cytotoxicity assay was done in order to check if the antioxidant action or the result was involved with the death of the cells. That was not the case. Finally, we can start the clinical study. This clinical study was already published in 2020 and was the title of this presentation. This study was done at the University of São Paulo Hospital, and we used here as the medicine the green propolis extract standardized. This green propolis extract was prepared from a blend of Brazilian different types of propolis, and we previously demonstrated the reproducibility batch to batch in order to have the standardization. We have already approved this product with a patent letter. This protocol have as the outcomes, as primary outcome was to evaluate the antioxidant efficacy of EPPAF using the urinary excretion of 8 isoprostanes, a marker of in vivo lipid peroxidation, and 8-OHDG, that is 8-hydroxydeoxyguanosine, a marker of oxidative DNA damage, as surrogate biomarkers. This was the first publication that we saw that used this biomarker of oxidative DNA. The secondary outcome was the safety of EPPAF in healthy volunteers assessed by kidney and liver biochemical tests. The exploratory outcomes were focused on studying some biochemical pathways involving oxidative stress. We studied the ferric reducing antioxidant power, FRAP, vitamin E superoxidismutase activity, and GSSG and GSG in plasma. That is the reduced glutathione and oxidized glutathione. Also, the malondialdehyde assay was done to detect lipid peroxidation in plasma. In this protocol, we did a treatment that involved In the beginning, we collected the blood and urine sample, and after this first collection, we treated the patients with EPPAF with the dosage of 350 milligrams per day by oral route. After 7 days of treatment, another collection of blood and urine sample was done in order to evaluate the effects in plasma and urine as previously said. And so the next 7 days was done treatment with 700 milligrams per day of EPPAF. This clinical trial was 2-phase sequential study, open label, not randomized, before and after clinical trial, because we evaluated the same group of patients before starting the treatment and after the treatment with propolis EPPAF. So the same group was the same treated and its own control. In this protocol, the values was considered, afterwards, the participants were instructed to use, okay, this was the protocol that we ran. Okay, the inclusion criteria were to be healthy participants, no history of allergies, no continuous use of medication 1 week prior to the study, and having read and signed the informed consent form. With, in the case of exclusion criterion, we excluded pregnant women, women breastfeeding, smokers, participants with history of alcohol and drug abuse. So the treatment, this protocol to do this clinical trial, we assessed 56 patients, and from these 19 were excluded, some because of non-meeting inclusion criterion and some because declined to be part of the study. We allocated in the study 37 patients that received the medication. The follow-up was done, and we have 3 patients that discontinued the intervention, one that lost the follow-up visit and declined to be part of the study, and some that stopped the intervention by adverse events, one because headache and another one because of diarrhea. And in the end, we have in the end 34 patients that were evaluated. Here you can see the biochemical safety profile before the baseline and 30 days after the end of the EPPAF treatment with the highest dose. The biochemical tests done 30 days after the last dose did not show any hematologic metabolic changes or either kidney or hepatic damage compared with baseline. In addition, the frequency of adverse events was low, only 3 cases, that corresponds to 80%. All mild and potentially unrelated EPPAF use. In this context, the present work shows that EPPAF at doses up to 750 milligrams per day was safe and does not promote oxidative or toxic effects, at least in healthy humans. Okay, so in the next, in this table, we can see the effects of the results of the biomarkers evaluated. In the case of FREP, values showed no differences after the use of both doses tested. Similarly, there was no effect of EPPAF on plasma vitamin E concentration. There was a significant elevation in plasma GSS concentration in both only in the low dosage compared with the baseline. SOD activity also increased compared to the baseline in the both dosages. There were no significant changes in the amount of GSS in the periods before and after the use of EPPAF, as well as in the GSSG ratio. superoxide dismutase activity was expressed as a percentage of inhibition and increased significantly with the use of EPPF from baseline. The maximum effect observed was with the low dose. Superoxide dismutase activity was correlated with urine 8-isoprostane values. Here in this graphic, you can see both dosages different from the baseline and the correlation between superoxide dismutase and 8-isoprostane. There was no statistically significant correlation between GSH concentration and oxidative stress damage markers. Here we can see there was a significant reduction in urinary extraction of 8-isoprostane with the use of EPPF. Apparently, the maximum effect was observed at the low dose, since increasing the dose was not accompanied by an increase in the magnitude of the effect. There was a reduction in urinary expression of O8Gg only in the higher dosage. There was no change in plasma malondiide values. So it is possible to see that we have important effects in 8-isoprostane and in the biomarker of DNA oxidation process. This apparent contradiction could be explained by the lack of sensitivity of the in vitro MDA method. This result of malondiide, that is apparent contradiction, probably is linked to the sensitivity of the in vitro method compared with the measurement of 8-isoprostanes, which are chemically stable markers and are formed in vivo. They are specific to lipid peroxidation and are not affected by the dietary lipid potent in contrast with MDA. In the end of this study, what we can conclude is that EPPAF has an important antioxidant effect in humans. This effect does not involve consumption of endogenous antioxidant substances as vitamin E or glutathione system. There is a reduction of cell membrane damage and DNA damage. Most of the antioxidant effects was observed at a dosage of 375 milligrams per day of EPPAF. The reduction of the 8-OHGG biomarker of DNA damage was observed only at the higher dose. Part of this phenomenon may be associated with the short treatment time, only 7 days, and low harm potential of participants, young and healthy. This is something very important. We only tested in healthy volunteers, not in patients with inflammatory process. Because of it, maybe this could impact in the malondiide result. This study possessed some limitations. The main limitations of this study are in its design. As it was a proof of concept study, a before and after design was chosen. There were no blinding, randomization, or placebo control, which may inflate the magnitude of the observed effect. Also, doses were elevated without a washout period, and a cumulative dose effect may have occurred. The safety concerns of EPPAF use could not be generalized, since we only study a small group of young humans without underlying disease or concomitant use of drugs. Despite these limitations, the study's strength are to use healthy young people at different dosage exposures, with a set of biomarkers being considered as the gold standard for detecting oxidative stress injury in humans and performed with a standardized presentation form of properties. In conclusion, the present study shows for the first time that a standardized properties extract led to a reduction in urinary excretion of 8-isoprostanes, which has been correlated with a rate of lipid peroxidation, and reduction in 8-OHGG, which has been shown to be a reliable marker of oxidative DNA damage in humans, associated with increase in enzymatic protection capacity for redox damage. To see one application of this study, because we studied in healthy volunteers, I found in the literature there's another study that is able to show an application in a group of elderly Japanese. So this work was entitled Cognitive Improvement and Safety Assessment of a Dietary Supplement Containing Propolis Extract in Elderly Japanese, a placebo-controlled randomized parallel group double-blind human clinical study. As we demonstrated the impacting effect of antioxidant action of propolis, here in this work we could see the important effect in the composite memory and verbal memory, where after 24 weeks of treatment, the group that received propolis, that is this one, demonstrated after 24 weeks a significant improvement in this effect. And in the case of verbal memory, too, we have an improve. In the case, a significant improve in relation to the placebo group, in the case of propolis, demonstrating that the antioxidant effects of propolis can be very useful in the elderly, in the case of the degenerative disease. So this was the most important result of this study, demonstrating that propolis can help in the elimination of some important effects of, in this case, of degenerative disease. To conclude this presentation, I would like to celebrate with you the 40 years of Apitherapy, the company that I am doing my research during the last 20 years. The company are completing 40 years in 2022. And we would like to celebrate with our thanks to all of our partners that involve partnerships in the Brazil, as USP, Unicamp, Fiocruz, Unesp, University of Maranhão, University of Paraíba, University of Brasília, and several others, and the international partners, as Instituto Politécnico of Bragança, Chubu University, Jules Monge University, and some universities in France, and some others. Apis Flora is present in more than 40 years, is present in more than 40 countries, is now a company member of Lenin Group, and is the first company to produce and commercialize propolis extract in Brazil. We have more than 15 certifications. According to the IQVIA, Apis Flora is the company leader in propolis extract sales in Brazil in the year of 2020. This year, to celebrate our 40 years, Apis Flora launched in the market a kids line. This kids line uses a technology of eye caps that involved the microencapsulation of propolis extract in order to avoid or in order to mask the taste, the flavor, and the smell of propolis, but increasing the absorption of propolis in the organism and have the same effects that we usually have in propolis as antimicrobial, antioxidant, and some other effects. This publication about the microcapsules are under application. And also, we introduced 2 years ago the line in the French market, which involve the same same products that we have in Brazil, but with a special brand to be commercialized in France and in some countries in Europe, as Portugal, Spain, and others. We did a very important celebration with more than 80 partners from research that we have in order to present our results of our research. We have here the founders of the company, Mr. Antonio Carlos, Mr. Manuel, and now they are retired, but their sons, Raul Ferreira is our CEO. And here we have the event of the introduction of new products in the market. Here's some of our research partners showing their results on their poster presentation and also as speaker in some presentation. We have 2 days of this very impacting event for us. Also, this newspaper in Brazil called Folha de São Paulo is a very important one. and present the result of an important agency of research in Brazil. This agency called the FAPESP is very important in supplying funds, funds for research, not only in universities, but also in companies. They did evaluation of the companies that are publishing scientific results. And surprisingly, Apis Flora was cited in this research as a very important company in the publications in partnership with universities. They ranked the publications and the companies that were doing research with the universities, and Apis Flora was in the 23rd place, in front of some very big companies as Sanofi, Microsoft, that was with less publications than us. So this was a very impacting information that we celebrated with our results. We are doing research with some important agencies in Brazil, as FAPESP, that is from the São Paulo state, CNPq, that is a federal agency in Brazil that supports research, and FINEP, that also supply funds for research. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the content of this presentation, and I believe, I hope you have the opportunity to do a contact if you need some additional information. So thank you very much. Thank you for the organizers